Hey there, friends. Well, just like whenever there's a, quote, mass shooting or a school shooting or something of that sort, the Democrats and the wackos on the far left use that opportunity to fundraise, right? To make a little money, to spread a little bit of propaganda. Well, the California wildfires, they're no different. Here's your boy, Bernie Sanders.
The debate is long over. Climate change is real. My God.
And look at this. It is block after block here.
The debate is long over. The debate is long over. Climate change is real. My God.
And look at this. It is block after block here.
This is a very, very major crisis.
This is one of the worst situations that we have ever seen.
We know climate change is making the kind of hot, dry weather California has experienced in recent months more likely. And scientists say that is increasing the number of what are known as fire weather days.
Approximately 6 months is the normal seasonal drought for this region, but we are now looking at about 8 months since we've had any meaningful rain down here.
The winter rains that normally reduce the fire risk in California didn't come.
And now you have entire communities that are this dry, so the fire has to do very little work.
I just don't want any parent or grandparent to have to be in a position where 20 or 30 years ago, little ones or your kids are asking you, didn't you know what was going on? Didn't you know what climate change was doing? Why didn't you do something about it when you knew about it?
The parched grounds in densely populated areas, a recipe for disaster.
Just look out the window at what's going on.
Unfortunately, we're seeing climate change in action. We're seeing worldwide lengthening fire seasons.
Conditions are expected to get worse.
Yeah, unfortunately, the future looks like a future with more fire than the environment that we have now. And underlying that is basically that warming and drying signal.
If we do not get our act together, what we are seeing now will only get worse.
So climate change is real, according to Bernie Sanders. You know what? I agree with him. For millions of years, our climate has been changing. Man wasn't even around yet, and the climate changed. And it continues to change. It changes on its own. It changes when it wants to. But in the case of the California fires, I actually agree with Bernie Sanders to a certain degree. Their claim is that climate change is man-induced, human-induced. In other words, we are the reason for climate change. Sounds kind of arrogant, right? I mean, that little old humans, if you put them all together, are a speck on the earth, that we somehow or another manage to control the entire climate and the weather of the entire globe. Sounds a little arrogant to me. But in this case, I agree with Bernie. I do think man is controlling the climate right now as far as these fires go in California.
We're about 5 miles as the crow flies from the Kenneth fire. So people here were already on standby, ready to leave their homes. And then things got even more frightening for these neighbors. Around 4:30 this afternoon, we are along the intersection of Arcos and Glendo. Around 4:30 in the afternoon here, neighbors say they saw a man on a bicycle with a blowtorch. He was driving up and down the blocks with this blowtorch, apparently trying to light trash cans with tree debris on fire at one point, trying to light a old Christmas tree, a dead Christmas tree on fire. Neighbors fearing that he could start, of course, another fire, deciding they had had enough, that they were going to step in. They followed this gentleman up the block, and that is where two neighbors finally decided to detain him. They had zip ties, and thankfully they were able to hold on to this person. The LAPD arriving a short time later, taking this person into custody on suspected arson. Now, I can tell you that through a police source, we have learned that this person is believed to have been tied to the Kenneth fire. We are blurring out their face. You're looking at this video of him being detained. We are blurring out his face because police have not officially come out and said that he is connected to the Kenneth fire, but this is what a police source is saying. Neighbors now here being credited with potentially stopping another wildfire from starting. Take a listen.
started, I just heard a lot of disturbance outside, and I heard someone in the front yard and someone else yelling over there, and there was a lot of yelling back and forth, and I didn't really know what was happening. So looked outside, and there was a gentleman with a blowtorch, like a propane blowtorch, like not a little one, like a full-size, like commercial-size blowtorch. And the other gentleman was yelling at him to put it down, and he didn't want to put it down. And we're like, no, you got to stop now. And he said, well, he's already tried to start a fire at my house. And so he tried to start a fire across the street. And he's like, he's got to stop. We need to detain this and call the police, get on the police. And so we called the police and basically detained him here until the police got here. And the police took him away.
The idea that this person may have started the fire, what goes through your head right now?
I mean, there's a lot of people on edge right now. It's terrifying. I've got 2 children inside that are very terrified of like what's going on. We can see smoke all around us. It's a terrifying time, you know. You don't want to put anyone through this. This isn't what we're about. This is just scary for everyone.
With all the fires around us, everybody's been on pins and needles. Everybody's like seeing all the footage, and we're just heartbroken by everything. And we're like, that could be us, you know. So as soon as you see that you may have stopped something, it's like, I don't know. You feel really like you feel happy that you might have kept something from happening here, because we don't need any more. We don't need any more of the stress that we've been under. We've got kids. We're trying to go to school. We're trying to go to work. You know, it's crazy. Crazy times.
So I'm not going to blur out his face. Here is the guy right here, and he does appear to be from a certain tribal sect that maybe didn't ask permission, receive permission, or do the things necessary to come here to the United States legally. I think that's probably going to get covered up. However, it does appear that this guy is one of the protected class. So I wonder how far that's actually going to go and what they're actually going to do to this guy. But I think more importantly, the question might be, why would he be setting these fires? I mean, looking at the guy, you just kind of wonder what's really in your mind. And in other words, you think about this guy, right? Whether he's here legally or illegally, I mean, show of hands, what does he have to gain by setting this place on fire? I guess my follow-up question would be, if I were one of the law enforcement officers that put cuffs on this guy, and assuming this guy understood me or spoke English, or the law enforcement possibly spoke Spanish or whatever their native tongue is, maybe the first question should have been, did somebody pay you to do this? Because this guy ain't the first and only guy who has been caught recently within the last few days setting fires over there.
We're at 302 Pico, and people are lighting fires now. You can see they lit a fire. These guys, not all the people there, but some of those guys lit that fire, and they're actually, the trees caught fire, and then the palms are catching fire. So civilians are now lighting fires down in the so-called, flats around Santa Monica, Venice. So be safe out there. Fire department's been dispatched. We don't have enough water to put this thing out, but we're supposedly on the way.
And there are multiple reports elsewhere of homeless people, various people setting fires in this community. In fact, I believe I saw one of the first reports was actually of a lady, I believe it was, setting what looked like a crate, a pallet or something like that of wood on fire on the side of a road or side of a building or something like that. So there's 3 that I know of video documented cases of people setting fires within the last 3 or 4 days over there. Climate change though, right? Climate change. These people are changing the climate right before our eyes on video. This is why so many people are sprinting away from the Democrat Party. These people continue to spread lies, propaganda, rhetoric, and they never retract any of their statements or direct their anger where it needs to be. You're not going to hear a Democrat speak out about any of these people that have been caught on video setting these fires. No, they're going to talk about how instead of 6 months of dry weather, they had 8. And because of that, we must have created that. Something we did created the other 2 months of dryness, right? Now, just a quick little dip into science here. If the sea levels are dropping Or are they dropping or rising? I've lost track of what their claim is now. I think it matters one way or the other. If it's dropping, climate change. If it's rising, climate change. But in this case, just a simple dip into my science knowledge from 6th grade. When sea levels drop, that means that the water has evaporated. Where did it go? It didn't leave the planet. It didn't leave the atmosphere. It's literally in the atmosphere. It's in the clouds. It's called, get this, rain clouds. So at that point, we have lower sea levels. Well, then how does the sea level rise? Well, when those clouds get tired of holding all that rain, they drop it. Where does it fall? Sometimes it's evaporated a little bit into the ground. Rest of it goes off into the ocean. Actually, in this case in California, most of their rainwater goes off wasted into the ocean. So you have a drop and a rise in sea level simply because the rain or the water or the moisture is somewhere at any given time, whether it's in the sea or it's in the sky, in the form of a cloud. Be on the lookout for more of these climate change eco-terrorists as they roam the California streets and set fires, and question yourself as to, is somebody paying these people to set these fires and then turn around and blame climate change?
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
It's over.